When I set out to discuss MamaMax, I made an extremely detailed deep dive into his past and present actions. I could never have imagined how far he would fall mere days after my video was released. For this reason, I feel like moving on from the situation too soon would be a disservice to both my audience and the community. Without further ado, I give you MamaMax.
I could literally cancel you, Charlie. I could literally cancel you, and I choose not to. It's true though. It's the truth. Like, I'm the friggin' hunter.
Okay, so just to catch you up, MamaMax claims to be a filmmaker who empowers children, but he's actually a con artist who fakes large portions of his predator hunting content.
I am presenting it as if it were to be real, but I didn't think people would take it as that.
But wait, you hunt piles. You don't think that people are going to think your videos are real?
That's the thing. So I want everyone, when you watch my video, to assume everything is fake, except like when I show a face on what they're doing.
MamaMax is also not the type of predator hunter who actively tries to send your abuser to prison. So you've never actually gotten a arrested?
Not to my knowledge.
His methods include sexting those predators himself and awkwardly wondering why the police just won't do anything.
I'm also actually gonna start interviewing police because I know they all want to arrest them. It's just the law binds them.
Despite his long, storied history of catching exactly 0 predators in his 5 years of hunting, MamaMax has attempted and failed to help multiple girls claiming to be abused and previously indoctrinated in a cult.
Max is supposed to be the one bringing the story across to everyone. And yes, if in the case that everything is actually...
Why is it my job? Yeah, why are you putting it all on me?
To put things plainly, Max has no idea what he's doing and has created a circus around these women. Today, I would like to take the time to discuss with you several things that I left out of my previous video, Max's responses to our coverage, and I would like to personally introduce you to the members that previously populated Max's friend group. They're eager to share some testimony of their own regarding Max's character.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Prior to myself and Mutahar publishing our videos, MamaMax tried to get out ahead by releasing a video of his own. This abomination was titled, "I Place Accountability into My Own Hands," which is hilarious because absolutely no accountability was taken by Max. The truth is, we knew Max was going to pull this stunt. In fact, he vaguely threatened Mutahar by saying he, Muta, will appear on the wrong side of history, and he threw in a far more direct, "This will get very ugly for you and your brand," in there just for good measure. If you watched my last video, or really anyone else's coverage, this was the upload that contained the infamous hug. Ladies and gentlemen, we made him cry. The entire video was fishing for sympathy, and I'm just going to be honest, Max is not going to be getting any from me in this video. One of the largest criticisms against Max is that he hides behind his abuse survivors like a coward, and no example that I've shown you up to this point comes close to what you're about to see.
I hope you can all understand my position. We are living in a world where survivors scream for help and no one wants to listen.
That was the night where he had induced my last marriage.
But you know, the transformation process is really dangerous on your body, especially because you're young. So from there, she had me like put stuff in my body and told me to pretend it was like his penis.
During the midst of it, I tried to scream.
We interrupt your sympathy baiting and bitching to play a sexual abuse survivor sample platter to really pull at your heartstrings. I don't need to tell you this is extremely manipulative and disgusting behavior. This video also includes some of my favorite quotes ever.
You can't just tell your story anymore. Now you need concrete evidence.
Yeah, no shit, jackass. Ironically enough, despite throwing shade towards myself and Mutahar, Moist Critical gets a long, thorough glazing in this video.
I'm sorry to Charlie for dragging him into a case that is not necessarily his fight. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to Charlie I really am sorry. I did not mean to make you upset. We just need help.
I was about as confused as you probably are here when I first watched this. As of a few days before my video, Charlie was actually still the only person willing to sit down and chat with Max and Spencer.
So we decided to reschedule.
And what happened with that?
We are waiting for Charlie to get back to us because we are going to fit it with his schedule.
So then why are you putting this weird blame on me?
Even after Max, the predator hunter, clickbaited him and upset him personally, Charlie was still willing to make time to meet with Max. The reality was, this is probably Max's last chance to get a large YouTuber involved, and well, he hadn't chased him away just yet.
I hope it's clear why I'm so willing to just call him a cult leader and sexual predator. I feel there's enough here. People have gone by with a lot less. Even Charlie has called people pedophiles without any hard evidence.
Who specifically?
Who was it? Was it Sneeko?
Max released this video alongside a brand new GoFundMe. After months of Patreon support and the recent wave of criticism, Max thought asking for more money was a good idea. People were also quick to point out that Spencer, one of the girls that Max is currently representing, has the role of financial manager for all of the other survivors. Spencer, who might I remind you, is literally homeless and living in Max's house, is now in charge of everyone else's money.
I don't think y'all understand, like, the relationship here.
This is wildly inappropriate, and Max has not detailed how these funds are being distributed or which survivors have actually gotten a percentage of the money raised thus far.
You can release it with their approval.
And that if the evidence isn't substantial enough, I'm putting myself in a defamation issue?
So you don't believe them?
There's a difference between believing somebody and being willing to
I
risk.
just sent it to you. Testimonials can serve as evidence.
Yeah, the judge and jury must consider whether the witness statement is credible alongside looking at other forms of evidence.
Dude, this is so we're not even in court right now, and you're talking about what could potentially get a conviction while you're trying to go to the court of social media, and you're telling them you don't have any fucking evidence. You're taking the wrong stuff to the wrong place, dude. If you thought his last video was rushed, the next one looks like it was thrown together in about 20 minutes. Unlike the quote-unquote accountability video, Max's post-video response was locked behind his Patreon. We are not beating the grifter allegations today, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, the GoFundMe that Max launched where all the money was being managed by Max's homeless survivor he's currently representing, ended up getting shut down in mere hours. I went to sleep, woke up, and it was gone.
We stand at a pivotal moment in history for the voices of child sex crime survivors. The silence has already been overwhelming, and now powerful forces are trying to further mute our efforts.
Yeah, Max, powerful forces are trying to stop you, like your gigantic ego and rampant narcissism, or, I guess, the law.
Because I know they all want to arrest them, it's just the law binds them.
The rest of this video is just a bad speech where Max places blame entirely on the dissenting voices, such as commentary YouTubers, and announces an entire separate documentary called Silencing All Survivors, where he will no doubt embarrass himself further. I personally think that Max should invest this time into a self-reflective sister project called Exploiting All Survivors. It could be about the dangers of fabricating evidence and the morality of doing it while you're making $15,000 a month on Patreon from the abuse survivors in your audience. But look, I'm not a documentarian. In the background of this video, MamaMax chose to include a scroll through of the trending page to showcase the discourse after my video released. What happened next, I assume, was an oversight. This is an actual screenshot from Max's video. Yeah, your eyes do not deceive you. Max included a screenshot of my avatar crudely photoshopped onto the face of Derek Chauvin with the caption, "We stand at a pivotal moment in history for the voices of child sex crime survivors. Powerful forces are trying to further mute our efforts." This is really weird and uncomfortable. And yes, this is the same guy who thinks he's the Martin Luther King of predator hunters.
Dude, yeah, I love these guys. Always keeps me on my mission, I think, and the importance of my mission, of our mission.
What mission? You haven't done shit. Is that MLK on his wall? Give me a break.
I have a dream.
By the way, happy Max History Month. As you could probably imagine, neither of these responses were able to stop the bleeding. Max's YouTube channel would go on to lose 47,000 subscribers in the month of January. To make matters worse, Max was losing support from the survivors that he'd been trying to help in his inner circle. It's also worth mentioning that all of Camden's videos, including the apology video we just watched, have been removed from Max's public-facing YouTube channel. This includes all the live streams as well, but does not extend to things like anything Spencer has released. Remember that, by the way. Compartmentalize it. If MamaMax did lose support, the following segment is most likely the reason why. If he didn't lose support, the mistakes he made here absolutely should be the reason for the remaining holdouts to drop him. Leaked images started dropping from inside the Survivor Discord, and this was both concerning and really funny. MamaMax was trying to convince the survivors to help him sue Mutahar, who's really rich, apparently.
In this, he types, "At everyone, Spencer and I," Spencer being his lead witness in this vampire sex cult case, "are considering a class action lawsuit against Mutahar for breaching our non-disclosure agreement. He's extremely rich, so the lawsuit seeks $1 million in damages to be distributed between all of you." Reading the word "he's extremely rich, so the lawsuit seeks $1 million in damages" is quite possibly one of the biggest mistakes you can make when actually threatening litigation, because this is what a court will look at and say, ah, this is why you're actually hitting them, because you just want a payday.
Max was foaming out the mouth, claiming he could get these girls $1 million and it would really help their case. Unsurprisingly, some of Max's own Discord server was going against him, as it really doesn't make any sense, and it just seems unproductive and fairly malicious on the side of Max.
All I ever was to this man was an extremely rich friend who had enough social media clout for him to piggyback his stupid case off of. This, to me, is quite possibly one of the worst, internet betrayals I ever had. And if anything, it's the one thing that has pushed me severely away from everybody on YouTube in the last week or two.
The leaked message from Spencer is kind of telling in that it shines a light on what she's after here. I don't really know how else you can read a message like that. In my opinion, it's about money for her. Some of the victims in these leaks look like they want their alleged abuser convicted, and some of them look like Spencer, ready to just take that money from anyone if Camden doesn't have the assets needed for a civil case. What happened next is actually pathetic. The entire evidence server was leaked, and it's all Max's fault. A random person pretended to be a survivor of Camden Gerard Davis and infiltrated the group. Because he dropped the ball so badly and didn't vet this person well enough, they were able to leak details about survivor evidence that hadn't been publicly shared yet. This all led to the dumb NDA being revealed and subsequently laughed at.
By the way, if you're a YouTuber or whatever, if you break this NDA, nothing is going to happen to you. This guy doesn't have any money for any legal bullshit or anything. This is retarded.
It's funny how Max thinks these unnotarized NDAs that were likely written by ChatGPT are enforceable. We've all been viewing them as kind of a joke for a while now. The one I signed to watch a video early came with a promotional obligation where I was required to live stream it and give Max a shout out. This is a joke. I literally signed it on a PlayStation controller manual. After Max threatened a lawsuit and his Discord was compromised, Max's former editor released a weird, edgy outtake video which contained gems like these.
I could literally cancel you, Charlie. I could literally cancel you. And I choose not to. It's true, though. It's the truth. I'm the friggin' p***o hunter.
Clearly this video was at least partially in character, but I think there's more to this than what meets the eye. Remember the time that Max straight up wrote that he doesn't hunt predators to help children? He does it because he likes hurting people. One thing that didn't make it into my first video, surprisingly, was that MamaMax's Mega account was suspended and subsequently reported to law enforcement per their website policy. Max used Mega to store those evidence files that would be found linked in a pastebin in the descriptions of his videos. Due to the subject matter of his content, many quickly jumped to the conclusion that MamaMax was storing evidence on this account. When confronted directly, this is what Max had to say.
Like I explained, the Mega folder and why it was publicly available was evidence of predators. This includes them masturbating on camera while I am telling them I'm a 15-year-old girl. This was made available so that people could see that these videos, even if there are fictional elements, This part is real, and this needs to be taken to law enforcement. If it was sent to law enforcement by Mega, then it is serving the purpose it was intended for.
The problem with Max's response here is it's not possible. When sites like Mega remove CSAM material, they are identified with known CSAM hashes, and Muta will explain far more coherently than I can what exactly that means and why Max's explanation is impossible.
Those hash files are then checked against other hashes of images, objects that you have on your local device or wherever you store online continuously, and if a hash gets tripped, which there could be false positives, but generally there aren't, they all check hashes, okay? Literally fingerprints within picture files. So I decided to go to Mega's transparency, and I wanted to see exactly how they identify objectionable content. When an account gets hit, they can appeal, but the appeals are so limited that I'm not joking, in certain quarters, they have literally allowed 0 appeals to go through. In fact, their highest appeals were 10 appeals, and this is obviously thousands of accounts being taken down. Very, very few accounts ever get reinstated.
There's also the matter of vetting Max's story. Let's listen to that one more time.
The Mega folder and why it was publicly available was evidence of predators. This includes them masturbating on camera while I am telling them I'm a 15-year-old girl.
Later on in the call, Max claimed that the account was not even his. He had no access to the email used to create that Mega. How do you know what was... Did they notify you what videos triggered this or took your account down?
Yeah, the hash in particular, maybe.
So, like I said, I don't have access to the account. I sent all of my evidence to a member of my team. It was a non-hacker, and they uploaded it and sent me the link.
So for all we know, that person could have posted something that triggered it.
I doubt it. They abandon all their accounts after they upload shit.
Max would send all of his evidence to an undisclosed third-party team member who then posted it for him on an account they would immediately abandon. This means it's impossible for Max to have even known what the reason for removal was. If he had no access to the email, he would have no concrete reason to believe what he's saying here. He wouldn't know why he was suspended. Despite that fact, MamaMax went on to concoct an entire story about how he was taken down for uploading videos of predators masturbating to him.
When you're a YouTuber doing an investigation, you gotta do everything by the goddamn book. The fact that you even have people on your team that are getting law enforcement to investigate you over illegally acquired materials, which can land not you in jail, not just you, but ruin any case that you work on.
Max's really weird lie raises far more questions than answers, but one thing does remain clear. This guy does not belong within 50 feet of a serious story pertaining to actual victims. Before we get to our last main subject matter of this video, I wanted to briefly address a few things that didn't really fit, well, anywhere else. The first of which is, Max has an unreleased video called My Little Pony, where the plan was to expose predators in the brony community.
What happened to the My Little Pony video, or what was that about? So My Little Pony was gonna be a video inspired by all the pedo communities in My Little Pony community, like all the bronies. I didn't go through with that video just because I thought it was harmful, like labeling all bronies as pedos basically, and I don't think I should spread messages like that, like just concentrate one group. Oh, these are all pedos. I mean, maybe not, maybe maybe some of them just suffer mental illness or have traumatic childhoods and are... Turkey Tom did a video on bro. I trust Turkey Tom. I'm sure he did a good job.
Later on in this video, we'll be briefed by Nexpo about a drama you've never heard of. But before that, he's offered to come shed some light on the My Little Pony video.
Okay, to start things off, I'd like to just clear the air and say that I've seen a lot of whispers about the My Little Pony video. So the My Little Pony project was something that Max approached me about pretty early on in our friendship, back when he was doing like the gaming mystery video phase of his channel. Essentially, it all boiled down to Max was going to fabricate a mystery surrounding the My Little Pony community and blow the whole top off of it and expose, I guess, whatever story he was going to cook up. I didn't know too much about the project, but he did want me to collab in it with him, but he did end up scrapping it at some point, so it ended up falling to the back burner.
Look, we all knew that Max would recreate or fabricate evidence against what he claimed were real predators. He's also confessed as much to me. Nexpo's statement alleges an even more sinister reality and cast much more of a doubt on his backlog. Another thing I really need to mention is that Max directed and filmed a rape scene for one of his more recent pieces of content. This is really fucking weird, and it's weirder when you see how he addressed it to his Patreon supporters who were voicing their discontent.
People asking you not to film scenes of implied children is not shying away from the issue. I believe it is, but we can disagree on that. We are all aware that this happens in your depictions of this. This is not true. I don't think we are all aware that this happens, at least not to the extent at which it does happen. And I didn't even go into detail. Like, I could have, like, there are mutilations, there is torture, there is things that cannot even be presented in a medium.
Just to be clear, the actress who played the minor is obviously an adult, but I don't understand the point of anything Max has made here. How is artistically recreating the exploitation of a minor empowering to victims? Max, you're a degenerate.
I'm just trying to stay to the truth. The character is an AGI. That is a spoiler, but it's also, whether she's an AGI or not, it doesn't really matter to the conversation. I just wanted to get that out there. I think the fact that the actress is a consenting adult portraying a child is the problem here, which I understand.
Guys, the thing that I meant to be a child is not a child. It's an AGI. Wow, that really changes so much.
I don't understand. If they feel that way, why would they continue to fund you on Patreon? So, Echo, you bring up a great point. I think it's because they want to vent on my Patreon their personal opinion, because it feels like they are being purposefully confrontational. All of their responses are emotionally charged. They bring up things that have nothing to do with human trafficking. Yeah, let's not gang up on them. I don't want to gang up here. I want to have a conversation.
While the simulated rape porn is mostly censored for YouTube, Max's Patreon offers an uncensored version, and you can find that floating around online. Again, I'm not really sure who's being empowered by paywalled rape porn.
The only way I can make money is through Patreon. That is the only way I can make money. Even still, I put resources at the very top of the description. If you want to donate to other organizations that deserve your money just as much, if not more than me.
This guy thinks he's fucking Rain.
So I'm pretty sure the base of these arguments come from MamaMax only wants money. MamaMax only wants to make horror movies, and MamaMax is willing to exploit children to do so. Like I said, if I wanted to make money, I'm in the worst industry to do so. If I made any other content, my life would be so much easier. I wouldn't have to deal with all this criticism about, like, I'm not portraying it properly.
Instead of crying about how it would be easier to just make other content to escape criticism, why don't you just make different content or nothing at all? You've never helped anyone before, and this tantrum hasn't convinced anyone to be on your side. Max does this a lot with his Patreon releases. In the public puppy stomp video, Max included a vague call to action for his viewers to harm those he featured in his video.
Even if some cannot appreciate the gravity of what we are doing, they cannot deny that you and I and others have been setting a precedent where the world will no longer tolerate pedophiles talking to and touching children.
In the uncensored version, this call to action was played alongside a prison shanking, with the understanding that Max has faked evidence against his targets before and oftentimes loops in real content creators like Tommy C to be exposed alongside them. This is really alarming.
That is the world we live in. It exists, and I think anything that tries to shy away from it or only imply it, but don't show the whole thing, just imply. How is that gonna affect anyone? Who's gonna have an emotional response to that?
For years, people questioned, why is YouTube removing Max's content? If I'm being honest, these last few weeks have me questioning why he's even still here.
My dad used to do as a cop that brought down a pedophile ring in London, and it's something I'd like to do, but I don't know where to start, who to talk to, or what skills are needed. Part of You Can't Hurt Me will be educating y'all on how you can do the work yourself. And not just doing the work, but doing it professionally and respectfully.
Oh no. He doesn't know how to do it either! In your previous investigations, what have you done to ensure that the evidence you're passing over to police is sufficient to get prosecution? And what precautions do you take to make sure it's usable in a court of law? None! They just beat off to him!
I mean, we literally had him. It's literally us saying we're 14 years old. He's saying, yeah, I want to see your pussy. I want to see, like, I want you to ride me. I'm also actually going to start interviewing police local to me as to why pedophiles don't get arrested, because I know they all want to arrest them. It's just the law binds them.
Max, what the fuck does that mean?
That will be one of the sections of You Can't Hurt Me, is me showing all of you how to do this stuff. Because it is a little complicated, but I think it's worth doing if you're spreading the right message.
I sent him a picture of my ass. And yes, that is my actual ass. So why don't you go to Patreon and support me sending my ass to pedophiles?
What a fucking liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. Literally lying. Still lying to his audience. Holy fucking...
In the last installment of my MamaMax series, we also discussed the story of one Anthony Fields and how MamaMax made an unsubstantiated allegation of predatory behavior against him.
I don't feel he could do anything to me legally for saying that, because if he were to, the girl who made the testimony would come forward and testify against him.
So she has his dick pic and has timestamps of when it was sent.
He does not have his dick pic.
So what does she have that she could come forward with?
Just her memory. But just because Anthony Field doesn't want to admit he's a pedophile doesn't mean he didn't do the things he did.
We already knew that Max Stryker believes allegations in and of themselves are enough evidence to conclude Camden Gerard Davis is a cult leader and child predator.
Well, I addressed him as a cult leader and sexual predator because that's how he has been described by the survivors, and even testimonials themselves serve as evidence in a court of law. So to me, that is all of the evidence I need to say this man is a sexual predator and cult leader.
But there's also that conveniently different standard set for the 5 girls that accused Max himself of being an abuser.
You provided evidence that was some girl's testimony, and 4 girls, if not 5, came out with their testimony against you. So by your own definition of evidence, they would have more evidence against you.
What I'm saying is the burden of proof is on them and they didn't provide any.
I even confronted Max on this, and he was unable to demonstrate how these 2 cases shared meaningful differences. 5 girls said it.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened.
Well,
5 girls said it.
Well,
yes,
About you.
After they were in a group chat together for 3 months, after changing their allegations.
Wait, I'm sorry.
times.
What group chat are you in? The evidence server with all of the girls?
There is evidence in there.
Clearly, MamaMax has 2 completely different standards for believing women based on largely spoken word testimony, and he showcases an alarming hypocrisy when he himself is on the receiving end of an accusation. We also learn that MamaMax is ready and willing to tease unverifiable evidence in his unsubstantiated predator allegations. Evidence Max knows damn well he is not in possession of.
So do you have any evidence proving he's a pedophile? Because you didn't show it in your video.
What do you want? His dick pic?
No. What? I want evidence proving he's a pedophile.
I think his behaviors prove that he is a pedophile.
So she has his dick pic and has timestamps of when it was sent.
He does not have his dick pic.
But like I said, we all knew that already. What we weren't able to do last time was establish a pattern of behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, are you familiar with the YouTuber NightDocs? I heard you mention that you do like stuff with like politics and stuff like. I have no idea what kind of content you make. Typically, that you don't really follow under the same like genre as him.
We are definitely, there is a huge overlap in the audience for myself, MamaMax, Nexpo, Barely Sociable, all that.
Yeah,
so
Nexpo,
it's more
MamaMax,
dark,
they
more
make
dark documentaries and stuff.
NightDocs, or Jim, was a proud MamaMax supporter during the Pick a Side YouTube campaign. So much that he called in to actually debate me 2 years ago and defend Max's character from scrutiny. But do you think like referring to it as like YouTube and saying stuff like the pedophiles that YouTube loves. I think one of the ones was that did he call them complicit? But like
the spirit of what he was saying. Yeah. I know. I understand this. Part of my response to this, I need further clarification from you though. What is the problem you have with him saying that? Like why? What?
I see it as
damage is being done?
misinformation. Like Max and many of their mutuals, Jim is a video essayist who makes long-form content. He was also firmly in the friend group of Max, Nexpo, Mutahar, and others just a few short years ago. Now I'm sure you're wondering, Nick, what happened to this up-and-coming YouTuber with all of these widely successful friends and connections? The reality was, NightDocs was cast out of his social circle because Max spread rumors that he was a bad father, a creep to women, and worst of all, a pedophile. You were one of MamaMax's biggest defenders. You even debated me on a live stream 2 years ago. But you've even told me offline that he lived rent-free in your house for months. Can you explain the allegations that Max has made against you to the best of your ability and respond if necessary? Yeah.
His allegations against me range from I'm a neglectful parent to I am a creep, that I'm a pedophile. Essentially, the one that I was most bothered by really was when he was calling me a pedophile. He wasn't saying it publicly. None of the allegations he had against me were said publicly. He was doing it all behind the scenes with the people that I was closest to. I mean, I opened my home to this guy. I let him live not paying a dime in rent. He didn't do any chores. He didn't pay any rent. He really didn't do anything. So like if he's complaining about how one time he fed my kids breakfast or whatever, he owed my kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner every time I had him. And he never once offered to compensate me or do anything in return either.
You heard that correctly. Not only did Max allege to have a predator friend that you never heard about, Max lived in his home by choice and rent-free for months. So how does it make you feel that he called you a pedophile? And I'm pretty sure you have, I don't want to say specific ages, but you have like 2 younger kids in your house.
I do, and they are pretty little. One is 10, the other is 7. I honestly figured after what Ryan initially told me that him calling me a pedo or whatever was like, that bothered me, but like I know the facts are on my side on that and everything, and there's really nothing that anybody could really say with any kind of credibility that would even hint at something like that. What really bothered me is he seems to have told everybody who will listen about what a bad dad I am.
Did he ever confront you about your parenting? Did he ever like take you aside and say, hey, I'm kind of concerned about your girls?
Not once. Never. He never confronted me about anything, especially the stuff that's been coming out of the woodwork that he's been telling people behind the scenes.
How did you find out he was saying this stuff about you? Did Max ever confront you directly? And if he did, how did you talk him out of covering this story on his YouTube channel? Because, you know, he's like a wild hunter, right?
I never had a chance to confront him because he never brought it to my attention that he had that perception of me.
Much like his allegations against Anthony Field, evidence was never released by Max that would implicate NightDocs at all. Unlike his allegation against Anthony Field, these weren't even made in a public setting, almost as if to damage Jim's business relationships exclusively.
All of my friends, he told them pretty soon after he moved out, and was then using that planted perception that he gave them to further drive a wedge until they were up in Buffalo or something. They were on a trip, and Ryan told me the story that he basically brought me up out of the blue and went off on this rant in the middle of the night saying, we gotta cut Jim off. It's only a matter of time before he gets canceled, and you don't want to be associated with him because he's into all of this. Now, I wasn't there to hear the specific things he said. Every impression that I've been given is that there really wasn't anything concrete that he could point to that supported his claim, only a predisposed feeling he had that he would then bolster with various stories that he felt he could tell to bolster that narrative.
So for the last question, don't answer this as like NightDocs the YouTuber or the filmmaker. I want to hear from NightDocs the father. How does it feel to be called a pedophile, or someone who mistreats their children or creeps on women? What does that make you feel?
It's really hurtful. I have a hard time understanding why someone who called himself my friend would not only say that about me, but not have the balls to tell me to my face, but instead clandestinely go behind my back and do it in a way that people feel like they're in on a secret.
And if it was true, why wouldn't he do something to help your girls?
If it was true, why wouldn't he try and get me arrested? Why wouldn't he try and bait me with some kind of sting operation or try and catch me in or whatever? He never tried that because he knows that's not what I'm all about.
To corroborate Jim's story, Nexpo has agreed to give an on-the-record statement of what Max told him directly.
So regarding Jim, there were two specific stories that Max really harped on when it came to NightDocs, at least whenever we had our little, I guess, falling out. So Max was convinced that Jim was this pedophile creep, and he backed up this claim with, firstly, a story about an inappropriate conversation that he claimed Jim had with a minor. As it turned out, this person was not a minor at all. They had told Jim their age at one point, which I believe was like 25 or so. I'm not entirely sure, but that's that whole story that Max always referred to back whenever he would call Jim a predator. There was another story that led to more of Max believing Jim to be, I guess, a creep. And it involved one trip to a restaurant that he and Jim had way back when Max was living with Jim. Apparently Jim was, making moves on the waitress and, continuously hitting on her, and he just wouldn't stop. And it made this, I guess, situation or this dinner that they were at very tense and awkward. Basically, every single time that I was with Max during the time when we had our, I guess, falling out, I guess you could call it, Max would perpetuate this narrative that Jim was this creep, and he would always refer back to these two stories. And I guess I just never really vetted them because Max kind of planted this idea in my head that, oh my god, we're associated with Jim, we have to cut Jim, we cannot be associated with someone like this, he's a pedophile, he's a creep, he's all of these things, and we can't associate with this guy. And in hindsight, it's silly to just listen to this, especially with this track record of just throwing out allegations without any evidence. But yeah, that was the I guess narrative that Max was running with. And I guess I didn't realize that he could have been, embellishing some details. Jim, I know you're watching this. To you, man, I want to say that I'm sorry. I know I've been talking to you privately behind the scenes about all this, but again, I'd like to go on the record here and just say that I'm sorry, man. I should have handled this better, and I should not have listened to what Max was saying.
Now look, if you have a problem with what Nexpo just said, remember, Max said allegations are evidence. As it turns out, Max, the predator hunter, wasn't even man enough to confront Jim head on. Mutahar was the one who would inevitably ask all the difficult questions.
In regards to Jim or NightDocs, there were two allegations, one of them which had come from Max, allegedly, in amongst a friend group, about him not being necessarily the best dad. There were two key things. One of them was him being asleep most days, and then the other was that Max would have to step in and feed his children cereal or whatever else was in the house. This is something that I heard, again, not from Max, but through our internal friend group. And while this one definitely raised some questions about, okay, you gotta be attentive if you're the dad, it wasn't necessarily the most serious thing. However, what was more serious was the allegation where he had allegedly started unzipping himself in front of a minor, exposing himself over a Discord video call. Now, I actually confronted Jim about this one specifically because I wasn't exactly, I needed to know the bottom of this truth, or I need to understand or at least get his side, because obviously I met the person in reality. Me and my wife confronted him, and in this situation, Jim obviously categorically denied that he had done anything, but I didn't have any evidence for or against Jim, and in spite of all that, I still decided to, hold back my connection, not talk as much anymore. We weren't necessarily the most talkative people anyways, but this absolutely sealed the deal. And that's just because I don't really like to interact with somebody that even has that kind of an ick on them or that stain. Because again, I don't know what's true or what isn't. In this situation, I just decided to dial back the friendship that I had. Obviously, considering everything now, I'm more inclined to believe Jim at his word, given the other party. But yeah, those were the two big allegations. Well, at least one of them were the most serious allegations, that being of the minor and him exposing himself over Discord. The other one about him being a father coming into question, I don't think I ever really questioned that. I think obviously when it comes to him and his interaction with kids, again, in comparison to him interacting in a weird way with potentially a minor or any woman on the internet, was something that raised more red flags. But yeah, that was about it for Jim. Thank you for having me on.
Right now, your bullshit detectors are probably going off like crazy because this story makes absolutely no sense. There is literally no response that Max could offer that would make this situation palatable to the general public. If there was evidence that NightDocs is a pedophile, why did Max, the predator hunter, not disclose that his good friend and former roommate preyed on children? It certainly seems like something Max would, or dare I say should, have disclosed publicly on his main YouTube channel. Look, if it was me being paid 10 to 15 grand a month on Patreon to hunt predators for a living, I personally would feel compelled to share the revelation that I lived inside of a predator's guest bedroom rent-free. What I wouldn't do is wait until I moved out and then spread a rumor about him privately amongst his friends as a form of gossip.
When I lost all my friends, I just went away from YouTube and all that. Like, I just lost all of my self-esteem. I just felt like I was like irredeemable. There was something wrong with me that nobody would ever want to be around me. And I had no idea what it was that I did, but I was like, I'm obviously just a piece of shit.
So you'd say this impacted your career, I guess?
Absolutely, it impacted my career. I completely fell off. I ended up hospitalized. Like, I genuinely ended up hospitalized. I came within hours of doing something very permanent and very stupid. It was the last straw, and essentially on top of a period of about 3 or 4 years of one traumatic incident after another of things that were out of my control.
There's also the lingering fact that NightDocs is a father with children in his home. Reminder, these allegations never made it outside of Max's social circles. If Jim was a predator, Max didn't even feel compelled to get the message out to anyone who could get those children out of his home. In reality, the most likely conclusion is that Max is lying. He doesn't have conclusive evidence that NightDocs messaged a minor. If he did, he would have come forward with it years ago. Max's unearned credibility in this time frame allowed him to make unlimited, unsubstantiated predator allegations without anyone in his audience or social circle questioning him. Last video, we found out he did this to Anthony Field, and now it appears he's done this again to NightDocs.
I could literally cancel you, and I choose not to. It's true though. It's the truth. I'm the friggin' pedo hunter.
So which is it, Max? Were you protecting a child predator through years of silence? Or did you maliciously lie to destroy a YouTuber's career? I'm looking forward to hearing that section of your Silencing All Survivors documentary.
I'm concerned about Max.
Max?
I'm literally concerned about him.
Max is definitely the most animalistic out of all of us, so
In conclusion, I never wanted to cover this story. MamaMax begged me to do it. I never wanted to stream about it. I never wanted to make main channel content, but MamaMax hounded me. In fact, he begged me, Tom, and Mutahar. Max's Achilles heel is that he kept going back to the well, and this was the last straw that broke the camel's back. If Max just took our silence as lack of interest and didn't follow up with direct threats to me, I'm sure his grift would have kept going. Ironically though, Max's persistence and unwillingness to accept no for an answer is what led to his downfall. Go ask his ex-friend Haley. She'll tell you this is not a new problem for Max.
In the military, we were talking, texting, and then just one day I was losing it. I was depressed, and I cut myself, and I posted it on that Facebook, and I said, "Thanks, Anthony Field," or something to that effect. Yeah, I would say that is certainly evidence of something.
While that scenario led to MamaMax getting dishonorably discharged from the military, this fuck-up led to him getting dishonorably discharged from his career as a predator hunter. I ended the first video by saying Max is a fraud, and everyone knows it. This statement could not have aged any better.
Do you think this guy is redeemable? No. I think you should delete his channel and get the f off the internet forever.
Filmmaker dedicated to empowering children. How is that not your proudest aspect? What does that mean? What do you mean by fight back? By making YouTube videos? How are your YouTube videos helping them fight back? What does that mean?
You could take everything Max says and flip it on him.
The fact that they're trying to profit off of subjects like rape and CSA is probably one of the most disgusting things you can do as a human being. You guys are the reason why it's so goddamn difficult to believe actual victims. It seems to be their pattern. If you don't believe them, you're gonna get harassed. He is the predator.
You are the predator. In his video where he's falsely accused, he uses it to falsely accuse people.
Have you ever gotten someone arrested?
If I have, then I don't know it.
He told us he did. He told us he got Pablo Sunny arrested.
He hasn't even fucking confirmed the evidence. He hasn't even been walked through and told the context of the evidence of all of the other survivors, aside from Spencer, apparently.
It's just a whole justifier from him, like, oh, we're making this into content because she lives with me right now, but she needs to be independent so she can become a YouTuber. What's the YouTube channel going to centralize around? Her alleged trauma? That's insane.
The Nick video is basically all of this is kind of like caught up with them, where it's like, okay, well, you haven't actually caught anybody. You don't actually do any about hunting. The current investigation you're involved in seems incredibly tainted because you're like very close friends, childhood friends with some of the people involved. Like all of this seems hyper retarded. And you're like scamming your fans for GoFundMe money. And you're like trying to like do, yeah, it's just like all of this basically, yeah. Basically, that's it, yeah.
So now Max is caught between a rock and a hard place. The general public is fully aware that his platform has never been used in a meaningful way to catch predators. In retaliation, the con artist plans to make a documentary called Silencing All Survivors where he blames us. This is not going to end well. People keep saying that his one singular chance at redemption would be to catch Camden Gerard Davis, but even that is already out of Max's hands. The reality is, and it's no secret, many of the girls have already decided to work with Mutahar instead, and he's now personally advising them. Any arrest that could come from this situation will correctly be credited to both the individual survivor and Mutahar respectively. Simultaneously, I'm just gonna come out and say it, Turkey Tom is working on a massive video exposing Camden and what he believes is an actual cult. This video on release will wipe Max's coverage into obscurity, as his channel doesn't even appear when you look up his name in search results on YouTube anymore. So to summarize, Max, you weren't just exposed, you were more or less erased. I showed the internet that you're a total fraud, Mutahar took over your case, and Tom will be spreading awareness farther than your own channel could reach in its prime. The case is closed, dog. It's over.
Hey, Nicholas DeOrio, we in this shit, son?
Eagle-eyed viewers might remember that I promised to leak the full recording of our Discord interview with Max and Spencer. So for the people in the house, let's say the brother and the mother, are they aware that you were 16?
His brother knew I was there. I don't know if he knew how old I was. I don't think he really cared either way.
And the mother?
He was primarily at work. I primarily hid most of the time when she was there. Either that or I would sleep during the day while she was home.
She was unaware that you were there for 4 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Depending on when you watch this video, that might already have been posted. Look in the description for more information. Thank you to NightDocs, Nexpo, and Mutahar for appearing in this video to testify against Max's character. Thank you to everyone else who spread the word about this story. I think we've made a difference here. But one more thing before we close the door on Max completely. Did you know that Max almost took his fans into the pedoverse?
The MamaMax universe takes place in the dystopian future where child predators have seized global power. The MamaMax universe, MamaMax universe, MamaMax universe,
There was an idea. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people to see if they could become something more. See if they could work together when we needed them to fight the battles that we never could.
Again, guys, 2 videos in the same year. Oh, geez. I don't know what we're gonna do next or when you're going to see me. Maybe Keffals will let me start my own polyamorous cinematic universe. Mrs. Tip, can we start a polycule? Babe, imagine how many versions of Keffals exist in the entire multiverse. Wiggler supremacy!